I chose this topic that we are investigating maybe in the last 2 or 3 years with Alex. Alex, we started to work together 23 years ago, and we still work together, and we live in the same street, so it's quite easy for us. So let me first, before explaining what I will do, the startup journey, okay? The startup journey, a group or a team of entrepreneurs, or one entrepreneur has an idea. He searches for the right business model, okay? And when he finds or she finds a good model, he tries to scale up, to survive, or to manage the business. It's a very messy process, especially at the beginning, with a lot of back and forth and failures and retrials and so on. And so that's the reason why we were convinced that creating a business model requires a designer or architect mindset. Why? Because an architect uses a common language, which is the plan. He will be sure that he will be understood by the construction company as he wanted to. Okay? Second, he used some mock-ups, or he designed some mock-ups, simulation, prototypes, and using those prototypes, he can test with the customers, the future owners of the building, so mean to collect feedback and evidence that the plans are going in the right direction. And we wanted to do the same. So that's the reason why first we developed some visual notations, common language if you want, equivalent to the plan, then developing some design thinking techniques applied to business model design, and also some testing activity, testing techniques inspired by Lean, Launchpad, and so on. Okay. So we developed different tools in our toolbox in the last 20 years, okay? But the first one we did, and we present those tools in some books that we have written in the last 12, 15 years. But the first one we developed was the business model canvas. Okay, so it's a shared language, a common visual language to describe and to design, test, shift business models. 9 blocks corresponding to 9 questions, trying to ask the entrepreneurs to tell the story of his or her future business. Okay, 9 blocks. For first, what do you offer? Who are your customers? How do you reach them? We call that distribution channels. And also, we try to describe the nature of the relationships you try to maintain with your customers. And then, based on those we have one or two, several revenue streams generated by the customers to buy or to use your value proposition. This is the front stage. Backstage, we need to have something, the key resources. When you have something, you can do something. So we have the key activities or the key processes. Sometimes you are not able to do that by yourself, and so you have some key partners. And all those 3 components have costs. And so we are not interested in the detail of the cost, but in the structure of the cost. Okay, so quite simple, and we will practice. And so this business model canvas is still growing. Here is Google Trends compared to Lean Startup Blue Ocean Strategy. A recent survey by Teach Entrepreneurship have seen that 88% of the incubators, accelerators in the world use a canvas, and it has been used also in different big companies. But for those big companies, the challenge is completely different for the startups. Why? Because they execute one or several business models, okay, bringing monies inside and revenues for this company. But sometimes some business could decline, or the leadership would like to maybe grow with this business, with the portfolio of those business models. That's the reason why they need also maybe to explore, and in a way to play the same game as for the startups, okay? Creating new businesses, maybe just for replacing some declining one in the execution portfolio. Okay, so it means that if you are a company, you need to deal with both, okay? You need first to exploit business model, means that you will try to improve, shift, manage, but you need also maybe to invent new business model for the future. A nice quote by Steve Blank: the exploit portfolio pay your salaries, and the explore portfolio, pay your pension, okay, is for the future. And so we need to be ambidextrous. All those companies need to be good in exploitation and also good in exploration, new businesses or new ventures. Finally, the business model with purpose means it's not only for profit, but you need also to take care of people, planet. So it means that you try to increase social equity, economic prosperity, environmental stewardship. And this matters much more than before. Why? Because you have the digital transformation, AI, climate transition, sociological evolution. And this is true in 3 different contexts. First, when you create a new company, a startup, a new business model. Second, for an existing company, when you decide to shift towards a business model with more purpose. And finally, when you're a large corporation and you manage several business models inside the same company. And so, before to go further, I will have a question for you. Okay, and you will raise your hand when you see a statement corresponding to your experience. First, I'm quite new to innovation tools such as the business model canvas. Okay? Just, you know the term, never use it. Okay? So maybe you use the business model canvas somewhere for creating a company, for describing a company, an existing company. Ooh, okay, so good. Maybe there are experts in the room, so it means that you use a lot, and you apply those business model design testing tools for your own company. Or, okay, thank you. And maybe you teach business model innovation. Okay, so, okay, thank you. So we have seen that you know the business model canvas, and some teach you. We have 10 or 8 people in the room teaching business model innovation. So the agenda for this morning, I will first present how to use the business model canvas when you want to describe a startup inventing new business model with a purpose, and I will try to illustrate it. Second, when you are an existing company and you decide to shift towards a business model with a purpose. And finally, for maybe larger corporation, when you manage an innovation portfolio with a purpose, and I will try to illustrate. But to avoid this phenomena, because it's before lunch, I prepare some exercises for you. So we will practice. No, not yet. Oh, they are impatient. Okay? And so in this room, you will receive material distributed by my assistant team here. Thank you. And if you are online, okay, prepare a piece of paper and a pen, because I will ask you something. Ready? Okay. So inventing a business model with a purpose. And I start with this company that you know, mountains, closest for mountains. And okay, so the purpose, if you want, is, and they mentioned that several times since the beginning in '74, we are in business to save our planet. Here you have a quote by Yves: "Profit is not the goal. Profit comes when you do everything else right," means good for society in a way. So it's complicated because they produce clothes, which is quite carbon intensive. So that's the reason why the main epicenter for innovation is sustainable manufacturing, which is quite complicated. So they need to align those activities with the environmental objectives, but it also means that you need to accept that it will have a higher activity cost. Okay, so based on this one, they developed sustainable value proposition, and they have to make customers feel they are contributing to protecting the environment. I mean, this one is key. You need to share, or the customers need to share the same value with the company. And finally, they apply a premium pricing for revenue because they have to cover those higher costs, and also because customers accept that environmental friendly production comes at a cost. Okay, 3 characteristics. There is a second part in this business model, which is the circular economy aspect, because more recently they decided to have second-hand clothing to outdoor enthusiasts on a budget, means with an affordable price. And so it means that they had to develop also this key activity for them that never done it before. Okay? And finally, they have a special key resource, which are the set of employees they have. Why? Because those employees need to share also the values that you try to share with their customers. And that's the reason why here, we go at the second quote, if you want to have employees who treat work as play, you need to be careful when you hire, when you train them, and so on. In the following video, he gave a lecture to MBA students, and he will try to explain in 2 minutes.
We wanted to have a job where we would be allowed to do that. And then we wanted to work with friends. We didn't want to work with MBAs.
He speaks to MBA. Okay, so it's key for them. Employees is a key resources. And so they won this UN Champions of Earth Award in 2019. But last year, Yves and his children decided to give away their company to a foundation where the profit will be only to save the planet or to help to save the planet. Okay, so big move last year. And for us, this company illustrates in a way what we call a sustainability masters, where the epicenter is clearly here with all the impact we have seen on the different parts of the business model canvas. Okay, and for all of those patterns, we have a trigger question. And this question could help other companies, other startups, other entrepreneurs to create a potentially good business model for the future. Okay?
The business model pattern is a repeatable configuration of different business model building blocks that we use to strengthen an organization's overall business model.
Okay, so we define a pattern library to help those companies in their design activity, or entrepreneurs or startups. Another one is what we call a repurposer. So the idea is you have a resource that you try to repurpose for creating a new value proposition to unlock a mass market and maybe to have a potential revenues coming from. And I will illustrate it with Azuri. Who knows? No? I will try to explain and then we will try to practice. So the idea is to offer affordable lighting systems for off-grid households, people who have no access to the electricity. Okay. It has been created by Simon here. He used to work at University of Cambridge, and you see his vision. So the idea is to offer to consumers, some kind of customers, the ability to benefit from modern products and services regardless of where they live. In this case, in this situation, or for this case, it will be in Africa. He used to work in a lab, and he has seen that a lab at Cambridge developed a special printed plastic technology designed to deliver low-cost solar cells. That's first, resource. And then you have seen that 600 million people have no access to the grid electricity. But he also knows that 70% have a phone, a mobile phone, okay, in Africa. So the idea is to replace this situation because we have no access to electricity. One way to have light inside your house is to use those lamps with kerosene. And then he came with the HES-SO solution.
600 million people in sub-Saharan Africa are not connected to mains electricity, and the lack of power comes at a price. It's that so cancer, the poisonous fumes it produces, and time wasting walking to town to charge phones. HES-SO is a business addressing its challenges with the aim of delivering life-changing modern technology to every home. HES-SO has combined the latest solar and mobile technology to enable its customers to access modern power devices. Systems are made full using a pay-go approach that allows consumers to spend a small sum each week to have access to the devices. At the end of the contract period, usually about 18 months, the systems are unlocked and free to use forever.
Okay, you understand? So the idea is to meet, when solar meets mobile, so you buy for roughly $10 the device, so the solar panels, the lamps, and so on, plus this box called Indigo Box. And then you can buy a scratch card using your phone. You receive a code. You punch this code on the machine, and you have electricity for roughly 1 week. And after 80 weeks, 1 year and a half, this system is for you for life. And so you have electricity for free. This is the model that they had in mind. And so I will ask you to map out, okay, HES-SO's business model. Oh, it works. You are receiving the canvas. You are receiving some sticky notes. And you have to put the sticky notes at the right position. That's for the room. Okay? Online, okay? You need to write down the full sequence of 7 letters matching the numbers. Okay, so 7 letters. The first one corresponds to number 1, customer. To the second letter corresponds to channel, customer relationship, revenue stream. It's possible to do in 3 minutes. I will give you, since it's the first exercise, 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, we will discuss the solution. Okay, I will explain. Okay, 30 seconds just to finish. We have specialists in the room and we have more beginners. Almost done. And for the online, I guess that they have the 7 letters. Ready? Okay, the 7 letters for online people, online participants. Please come back with me. Rub up. Okay, so here the customers are the off-grid Afrikaners.
For reaching those customers is intermediaries. Okay, so it's entrepreneurs that are able to sell the system, but also to install it and maybe to do the after-sales service. The relationship is mainly based on
Keeping those customers with the
machine, because if you don't pay $1 per week,
you have no electricity. So for them, it means that it represents a lock-in. Okay, the transfer cost for the customers is quite high.
And finally, the revenue stream is the pay-to-go payment, $1, $1, $1, and it's a recurring revenue.
At least 80 times,
you will have your $1, which is it's a very small
company. It's a small startup.
So here on the left-hand side, distribution and
installation is what you have to do. It's mainly maybe there are also manufacturing and something else. The key resources and the costs are related to those activities. The key resources is the license to use this one, which has been provided by Cambridge University. Okay? And there is a second aspect in this business model, because the local vendor, in fact, is the final customer, because they are interested in, and for them, they are not interested in to have life in their warehouse. No, it's an employment opportunity that you give them to reach those customers, your final users, if you want. Okay, this is roughly the business model that they have applied for a couple of years now. They provided so far electricity for 1 million people in Africa, which is very far away of their initial target, was 600 million if you want. But they have competitors who adopted the same technology, mobile plus solar, like Encopa, and it's a kind of, both are illustration of fugal innovation. Okay, means small innovation, sophisticated, this printed technology, but
this shows that with true innovation, what matters is that you take what is most abundant, not our creativity, to deal with what is scarce, which is energy.
Okay, that's the idea. Okay, no, we developed this database of different patterns and flavors of patterns and so on with this ID to help people.
The patterns library helps ensure the future of your company. Business models expire faster than ever before. So here are 3 main ways patterns can help you stay relevant, ensure longevity, and keep ahead of the competition. Design and assess. Use patterns to design superior business models and to assess the competitiveness of an existing business model. Disrupt and transform. Use patterns as an inspiration to transform your market. The patterns library showcases a series of companies that disrupted entire industries. They were the first to introduce new business model patterns in their arena. Question and improve. Use patterns to ask better business model questions beyond the traditional product, service, pricing, and market-related questions. Regardless of whether you are a senior leader, entrepreneur, investor, or faculty, you can use patterns.
Now you take a piece of paper and be ready with a pen in your hand. And you can use the reverse side of this one. I will ask you to draw something. It won't be a sheet, okay? But it will be
possible to design, to draw something in 5 minutes. Okay? Ready with your pen, because it's very short. Okay? Stop. You have your pen? Ready? Okay. Yeah. 5 seconds. Please draw me a small house in 5 seconds.
Small house. Okay? 5, 4,
3, 2, 1. Stop. No, please show your house in front of the camera. Okay? Good, good, good. Okay? And so you will tell me, why do most of you come up with exactly the same thing?
a Swiss chalet, a square and a triangle, and I'm sure you've done it with the Swiss chalet. So if you do exactly the same thing as your competitors or in the market somewhere, is not innovation. Innovation, you need to come with something a little bit different.
Because if you do exactly the same thing, the alone way to compete is on the price, which is not good. Okay. So that's the reason why here the former dean of Toronto Business School say you don't just need to understand design, you need to be designers, to create something new. That's it. So creating means designing first, so brainstorm is some techniques inspired by design thinking, so ideation, brainstorming, and more. Then prototyping, using the canvas as the visual way to communicate and to exchange information. Then assessing maybe, okay, that's fine. And so you have a first business model inside your company or inside the incubators here. It's not enough. Why? And the pattern help you to, with the trigger questions, the patterns and so on, to do it. I will not focus on it. But here, there is a fine line between vision and hallucination by the father of the lean startup.
All you have is a big empire. It's a religious organization. Because you're betting on your vision and you see things others don't. But we now know over history, about 95% of the time, you don't have a vision, you're actually hallucinating. So it's impossible to kind of eliminate that waste of time and energy to find out only later that you were wrong. And so what we propose is you take your hypothesis, you break down your vision into this business model canvas, and now get out of the building in a fairly formal way, using something we call the customer development process, to test every one of those hypotheses. And what we'll find is, you know what, as smart as we were, we're not smarter than the collective intelligence of our customers.
Means that testing activity inspired by lean startup customer development, you extract hypotheses on the 9 blocks, okay, testing desirability, feasibility, viability, using the canvases. Then you experiment, and we develop 40 experiments or tests which you have to do outside the building with real customers, and maybe ideally with a call to action, asking the customer to do something, not just to understand or based on an interview. Based on this one, you can learn something, okay, and so you are there. But it's a very iterative process, so it means that here you have to navigate sometime between those one, okay? So it means when you have to decide, you can persevere, more tests, you can pivot, change your business model, launch, or decide to kill, to stop, to say, okay, I have no evidence enough that showing, demonstrating that my business model is potentially successful. Testing means that you try to reduce the risk of launching. Okay, so you reduce the risk with more tests. The second idea is at the beginning with a small amount of money, and when you have decreased the risk, you can put more money for this company or these startups before to launch. That's the idea. I will not go further today because I would like to also deal with this idea of an existing company who decide to shift towards a business model with a purpose, okay, with impact. So we know that it's on this side, so means improving, reinventing, shifting. So it's something where you need to be agile, because if you decide to focus from profit to something like dealing with more with people, society, environment, it's quite complicated, but you need to transform your business model, okay? So you need agility. Okay, so the idea is you have the business bringing money in your company, and so you design a new business model for the future. That's the idea. It's exactly the same work as the architect when he has a plan. He put a tracing paper, and he decides to remove some wall, put some windows, doors, and so on. So you have two design of the building, the old one and the new one. And when he will execute the project, he will replace this one by this one, or he will put them together, in effect, because he will not maybe remove the wall or so. Okay, so it will be a mix. And we will practice. But first...
Shift patterns codify the shift from business model to another.
Okay. So, and we develop a library for this one also. But I will illustrate it with a company. Who knows Ørsted? Or Dank? Coming from Denmark? No? Okay. Okay. So they decide to shift from fossil fuel energy producer in North Sea towards a green energy powerhouse with wind farms. Here, the CEO of the company will make this transition, and it took 8-10 years. So we must dramatically accelerate the transition. And here, the chief strategy officer will explain you what they have done.
Just a decade ago, we were one of the most fossil fuel-intensive energy companies in Europe. Today, we are ranked the most sustainable company in the world. And why should you care about that? Well, because our story is true, that it is possible for a fossil fuel energy company to change. The vast majority of the world's energy still comes from fossil fuels. If we want to fight climate change, we need to transform the world's energy system and build a global energy system based on wind energy instead. Over the past decade, we have proven that offshore wind can be built cheaper and at the same scale of fossil fuel energy systems.
This one is the technological aspect, if you want. But it's not enough, because they used to exploit fossil fuel energy company. At that time, it was called Dank. And they transformed this business model with this green energy provider. Three main shifts that they have operated. The first one is, okay, they had a resource, so they shift this offshore know-how and resource of drilling operations to be able to build those offshore wind farms. So they reuse the technology with a different objective. Second, they changed the value proposition. Clearly, it was oil, gas, coal-based energy, and now they have renewable energy with the wind farms, offering to their customers. Third, they changed also the revenue stream, because before it was highly volatile, okay, commodity-based, using the market where you can buy and sell oil, and now they have a subscription as for the normal electricity provider. So they changed three main things that they have to operate. At the level of the business model and at the level of technology engineering, they have to build those things. Okay. So with this one, okay, they reduce their CO2 emission by 80%. That's the reason why they have been nominated as the most sustainable corporation 3 years ago. Okay. So we developed also a kind of library with the shift patterns for helping existing companies to shift their business model. And I will illustrate it with, or you will practice a second time, with this shift from niche market to mass market. So you have a company where you reach maybe a couple of customers, VIP customers, and you try to extend this to a large number of customers, changing the revenue stream and some different things. And I will illustrate it with TED Talks. Initially, the TED was TED conferences. Okay, so they shift from niche conferences, addressing, targeting niche customers, VIP customers, influencers, towards free knowledge for global audience, because who already watch a TED Talk? Everybody, fine. So the initial model in the 80s, 90s was invite only niche conference for the intellectual curious about technology, entertainment, and design. And they decided to target only big influencers, no more than 1,000 if you want. So the idea for the channel was to have personal invitation. So you are receiving, and if you didn't receive the invitation, it was not possible to attend the conference at San Francisco or Vancouver. Okay? So it was highly privileged relationship. They know their customers in a way.
And the revenue stream is
The conference fees. On the other side, okay, they have the key resources, staff, curators, maybe they build a brand in 10, 15 years. And now the main key activities are marketing, staging conference, and the costs are related to conference logistics mainly, because it's an event like this one, but bigger. And they have the TED speakers and the venues who are partners, and maybe they have also partners such as subcontractors or something for food. And there is a second part in this business model, which is the visibility they can offer to some sponsors, family foundation and so on, and bringing some money coming from sponsoring, two sources of revenue. Okay, but they decided to change and to offer the TED Talks, means towards free knowledge for global audiences from the world's most inspired thinkers. But for doing it, please, go ahead, thank you. So, how would you change TED business model for conference to adapt it to video streaming? It's a big, big difference. Imagine here you organize a conference, thank you. But if you want to address no more 80%, but thousands of people, it's completely different. You have to produce a video, you have to record a video, you have to do a marketing. So here, wait a minute, I will explain the instruction. Listen. So you are receiving a canvas with already some sticky notes. No, keep the tracing paper. So on top of it, you have the tracing paper. You will work as architect renovating the initial business model. You are receiving also some sticky notes. You have to put the sticky notes at the right place, but on the tracing paper, exactly. So we will have both. We will have the conference one and the video, TED Talk. TED conference, TED Talk. And after we will see what they have done afterwards. Okay, for the people online, please write down the full sequence of the 7 letters corresponding to the numbers. And I will show you. And you start now, you have only 3 minutes because you are experts in the room. It's your second exercise. sticky notes. We'll go quick. Ouais, 20 secondes. 15 seconds. Last one.
I've seen a lot of
Put here, putting the sticky notes in a random way. The idea, that's the reason why I put
some numbers. Do not forget that the business
model canvas is also there to
help people to tell the story of your business model. So if you
present
present
something,
tell this as a story. That's the reason why I put the sticky note, the road between. So the first one is
you have to know what to
offer to your customers. Okay, the 10 So who are
the
your
customers. The customers in this case is no more the invited only influencers, but it's, okay, global curious individual, yourself. Okay. So now, or you reach them. Is it private invitation to watch the video? No.
Okay, so it's the website.
Okay? And then the customer relationship is anonymous. You don't have to be registered to enroll to watch the video. Completely anonymous. You come,
You see, you watch, and then.
the revenue stream, is for free. That's strange to build a so sophisticated
Business model for free.
It's a question mark. Here on the left, mass marketing and TED Talks production are the big activities that they had to develop, especially this one, because before that it was to deal with the logistics of a conference, as Manu and the team here. When you produce video, and 4,000 videos they have in their database, it means that you are becoming a media company. So you need to produce and to deal with the recording and the right to watch and so on. Okay, so here, YouTube and translators, volunteers are some partners they have. But the main thing is here, a large audience of those people. But what they can do with this resource, millions of people. I will explain. So the idea, they used to have a niche conference model. They created a business model that you have in front of you on the tracing paper. Did they keep one or the other? No, they decided to keep both. Why? Because here you can see some numbers, 4,000. 3 million views annually, so means this audience is very, very large. Audience of people for free. So the question is why they kept that for free? Just because they wanted to reach this purpose to offering intellectual content to mass people, so a mass market. But they have this audience of billion of views, so a million people watching those videos. So, for the initial model, it became more prestigious to attend the Vancouver conference, the big conference. And so they were able to increase the conference fees and to have in total roughly 70 million of money coming from the people ready to pay to attend this prestigious conference, to be able to offer a value proposition for people watching the video for free. Okay, and you can see the numbers. Now you have to pay no more 4,000, but 10,000, 25,000, and even 2,000 for 205,000 for 5 years. So, and so the reason why, with the white one, they offer this one and they collect money, and with the tracing paper one, they offer and they reach this purpose to offer for free a lot of content. And TEDx is a nice illustration, but I will not do it today, of franchising in a way. Okay, so they had to change a lot of things inside their initial business model. And more recently, they launched this Countdown Summit to deal with environment. Okay, it has been launched by Bruno Giussani, which is a colleague of us living in between Lausanne and Ticino. Okay, so keep in mind, I think it's a lesson for us, especially in the IT, service science, and so on, that if or when you bet on technology, even IT, to invent the future, make sure you don't forget to invent, reinvent. The first one, invent. The second one, reinvent or shift your business model. And the three situations that I show you, Azuri, Ørsted, TED, okay, IT is clearly an issue for them, but it's not enough. And I try to show you that they change something in the business model of their own company, starting from scratch, Azuri, or changing, transforming, shifting a business model with something more towards a business model with purpose. Now, I try to deal in the last couple of minutes, decided to manage an innovation portfolio. It's true for large corporations. Why? Because we have seen that large corporations, most of the time, manage several business models inside their portfolio. So we created a new tool just to visualize this one. So we call this the exploit portfolio. With, I will present those two axes afterwards. But we wanted also to have a portfolio of the business model under exploration. Okay, so we create this tool with two squares and two different axes. And so the idea, in the first one, you search for the right business model. You play the same game as a startup. And here you try to scale to manage and to avoid declining business models. So the video presentation.
Everything starts with an idea. Even the largest companies were once startups searching for a business model. When startups find a model, they scale and transform it into a mature company. They shift from an entrepreneurial mindset to a managerial mindset. Call these two fundamentally different worlds explore and exploit. Companies must manage both at the same time. A portfolio of existing businesses and a portfolio of new opportunities. The exploit portfolio helps you manage what you have by looking at the return on the one hand and the depth and disruption risk on the other. Here you scale emerging business models, renovate declining ones, or make successful ones more resilient. You bolster your exploit portfolio with the following portfolio actions. Bring in outside business models through acquisitions, mergers, partnerships, or investments. Improve existing business models, shifting them from outdated to superior models. Remove business models that don't fit your strategy through divestitures or by dismantling them altogether. Yet, managing what you have is not enough in times of disruption. Even the best business models expire like a yogurt in the fridge. Avoid obsolescence and proactively develop and explore a portfolio of bold initiatives. Your search for growth engines requires two main activities. Increase the expected return by designing better business models. Reduce the innovation risk through rigorous testing. Adapt ideas based on evidence from the field until a value proposition and business model emerge. You manage your Explorer portfolio with the following portfolio actions. Ideate and test your own business model and value proposition ideas, or invest in outside ventures, or do both. Once you start testing ideas with experiments, the evidence will suggest the path. Persevere and gather stronger evidence. Pivot and adapt the idea a little or a lot. Retire it entirely because the evidence indicates it won't work. To scale a tested and de-risked idea, transfer it to your exploit portfolio or spin it out if it doesn't fit your strategy. When in exploration, know that you can't pick the winner. Early on, good and bad ideas are indistinguishable. The only way to truly identify the winners is by investing small amounts of money in a large number of projects. Retire ideas that can't produce evidence and invest in those showing traction. Want a larger return? You'll need more projects in your innovation funnel. Use the portfolio map to visualize, analyze, and manage your portfolio.
Okay, this is the tool we developed three years ago. We will not practice, but I will illustrate it with this idea, managing a portfolio, innovation portfolio, with a purpose, transforming. And it's true for Unilever. Okay, here the goal that they had, make sustainable living commonplace, was the motto that they had developed a couple of years ago under the direction of Paul Polman, the former CEO of the company. And he has this one, and he has written recently this book, Net Positive, that I suggest to read, interesting one. The only companies that are going to survive in the future are the companies that make positive contribution to people and planet. But at the level of a huge company, 50 or 60 billion company annual revenue.
So we believe that an equitable and sustainable growth model does not have to come at the expense of either type of better growth. In fact, if that is your strategy, I would submit it actually accelerates your type of bottom growth. So that is what we're trying to show. And so far, also as our shareholders, but as one of our stakeholder groups, we've translated that into a reasonable return. I personally believe that more so in this world than in any other world that we live in, companies that are in tune with society, closer to the needs of the population at large, after all, we're a consumer country, are a better place to be successful. And that is the essence of this moment. It's a growth model. Okay.
So they have an exploit portfolio with different business models for beauty, food and refreshment, home care. So means this one brings more money than this one, so as you have seen in the video. But here at People, Planet, Profit, as he mentioned, they decided to have this make sustainable living commonplace, more equitable, sustainable with growth. And based on this one, at that time, he gave some portfolio guidance. Okay, you can acquire, you can first improve some existing business model inside those three families with more educational tool, biodegradable, less water.
They have also suggested to acquire a company in the natural organic food, sustainable packaging, eco-friendly. They also give instruction, guidance to retire some companies, so mean to divest or drop not aligned brands that they had in their portfolio at that time. And finally, at the Explore portfolio, they created a fund, a global collaborative innovation platform. And it took roughly 7-8 years, but no, the purpose-led brands inside the portfolio of all the brands, and they have, I think, more than 1,000 brands inside those three family of business models, 75% of the company's growth. Okay, so good direction. Okay. And so it's number one of the most influential food and agriculture company. That's one thing. So they decided by themselves. But we can also have companies deciding that we will be certified by external body, in this case, the B Corp certification. So certified B corporations are business that mean the highest standards, verified social and environmental performance. And a nice example is Danone. Why? Because again, a couple of years ago, the CEO of the company, Emmanuel Faber, first had this purpose in front of all the employees, bringing health through food to as many people as possible, even in underdeveloped countries and so on. And so they say, we want to be an entreprise à mission, enterprise with a mission in France, which exists. And it has been the first listed company, because it's also a huge company. And they did roughly the same as Unilever with this idea to have all the business units certified.
Consumers are requesting evidence of the intent of the people behind the brands. Businesses have to serve not only their shareholders, but also the planet and society at large. Align with our long-term commitment to economic success and social impact. Danone is one of the first multinational companies aiming to attain global B Corp certification. B Corp certification is a credible external certification that recognizes high standards of social and environmental performance. Already 87 subsidiaries have been certified.
5 years ago.
Are in progress. We believe that the B Corp certification will reinforce trust with stakeholders, retailers, civil society, and governments. For consumers, seeing the B Corp logo on packs gives them the reassurance that the company behind the brand is socially and environmentally.
So they did roughly the same kind of action. You can see improved They provide infant nutrition, human healthcare system, zero waste production. They divested some non-aligned brand, but they have also created this manifesto called the Corporate Venture and Venture Capital Fund, investing in social businesses in Bangladesh. Okay. And now, 75% of the global investors are covered by this B Corp certification. So in a way, they are going in a good direction towards this purpose that they have fixed the HES-SO line. On this one, the Explore portfolio, one of the questions you could ask is how many innovation projects you need to explore during a couple of months or a year before to transfer and to launch this business model, capturing value in your portfolio, in your execution or exploitation portfolio. Do you have an idea? I will ask you the question. So you could say, okay, normally the project for sustainability innovation in a company is a project management. So who would think here that for one project, normally, if you have a finance on, you will go and you will reach the objective to launch a new business in your exploitation portfolio. Who think that maybe out of 5 projects, just one will be launched? 5, 10, so means you spend 10 times, I don't know, for a big company it could be 100,000 just to go further, 3 months, innovation sprint and so on, to be able to launch one project, 1 out of 10. No? Who prefer 5? Still 1? Good. Okay. Maybe 50 projects? Okay. Our experience with big companies, Bosch, Bayer, Nestle, and so on, is roughly 1 out of 10. Okay, so it means they spend 10 projects, they explore 10 projects, they give between 100,000 to 200,000 in the big company. For the small company, the Rasta in Switzerland is maybe more 5,000 to 10,000. But it's roughly the same number for SMEs, for big companies, but also for the venture capitalists. So they have to manage a portfolio. That's the reason why. Because using those techniques that we have briefly seen at the beginning, they need to test, and if the tests do not confirm, the different tests do not confirm that you have enough evidence to go further, you need to stop, to kill, to retire, to achieve your project. That's the reason why you need to manage kind of funnel. If you don't have 10 or 20 projects here, it will be very difficult to add 1, 2, 3, 5 here, and just one could be successful. For Bosch, for example, they launched 200 projects, and in 3 years they had 19 projects, business models, which have been launched. Okay, so what you want of that. But here you cannot pick the winners without investing in the losers. If you think that this project is better than this one, you said this at the beginning, and if this one is not successful, you have nothing in your hands to go further. Okay. So I've seen this idea to invent for a startup new business model. We illustrated with Patagonia, we practiced with Asoli. Existing companies with Hochstedt and TED, and the large company with very quickly with Unilever and Danone. We know that leadership is key. That's the reason why I mentioned the founder of the company, like Simon and, or Yvon, the CEOs of the company, or the founder, okay, or the big CEOs. But keep in mind that much more important than just leadership is the culture that you can develop inside your company. Yeah. So there are a lot of innovation myths in innovation. Most of the time, managers think or believe that it's enough to find the right idea, execute the plan, check the results, avoid failure, build the future based on the past, because they have been trained in project management. And they say, when we launch a project, normally we are going at the end of the project. Maybe something going ahead of the budget, but you know, you will be successful at the third. But it's true for exploit, execution. It's not true for exploration. Why? because it's the same game of a startup. You try, you go back, you back and forth and so on. So that's the reason why they say, oh, to achieve an ambidextrous organization, you need both. You need first to develop a culture of exploitation culture, cherishing, management, systematic improvement. There is project management, that's clear. But on the other side here, for exploration, you need to cultivate creation, discovery, validation, acceleration, new ideas that are foreign to your organization. So you have no expertise in this topic because you will learn something new that you never done before. And you need to cultivate both under the same roof, the company. And since it's this idea of designing, testing, and so on, means you need to have a strong leadership support, that's clear. You need to have an adapted organizational design, I will briefly suggest something, and then you need to develop some innovation practice related to business model design, lean startup. For this one, we create a tool that I will not visit today, but we also create what we call a self-assessment to test or to check, to assess your innovation culture readiness. Okay, so 9 questions. But 9 questions, it will take maybe 15 minutes for you for doing it for your own organization or university. So that's the reason why we simplify with 3 main questions that Alex will present you just in one.
We really need to look at 3 things: leadership support, organizational design, and your innovation practice. And 3 simple metrics to look at. First one, how much time does your CEO spend on innovation? If it's not 20 to 40% of his or her time every week, you won't get innovation. Second one is where innovation lives in the org chart. If it doesn't live at the very top, growth and innovation, that's not R&D or the CTO, no, a full-time job, growth and innovation that reports to the CEO. If that doesn't exist, you won't get innovation. And the third one is innovation practice, which means your ability to constantly explore new ideas, make small investments, let teams start testing ideas, but then rapidly kill those ideas that don't produce evidence, so you can constantly reallocate capital in those ideas that are really working. So that's how you let winners emerge, by killing the projects that are losing, that are not showing evidence, and making it safe to fail. So if you're not good at killing ideas, you won't get innovation. So 3 things.
Yes, 3 things. So first is time spent by leadership on innovation. If it's not 2-3 days per week, it means that innovation is not taken seriously in this case. And you can see, you can have, most of the CEOs spend only 2 or 3 hours per week on innovation, because they think that it will come from nothing. Second, innovation at top. If the people in charge of business innovation doesn't depend on the CEO or to be co-CEO, and we have some companies with 1 CEO for execution, chief execution officer, and 1 chief entrepreneur dealing with this growth engine that we can create in this growth portfolio. And finally, at innovation practice, you need this ability to kill projects. And something which is very dangerous is to have an innovation project in your company for the last 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. Oh yes, we will do it. Okay? No, it's not good. It means after maybe 6 months or 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, you need to be able to say, okay, stop. You try to test, you test it, you try to convince me that this business model will be successful. No, stop. Okay, and reallocate the resources for someone else. Because exploiting current success and exploring new opportunities in different arenas and require different types of leadership management culture. So the question for you is your company or university or business school ready for sustainability innovation? So, do you have the right culture? Being your rector or spend 2 days per week to create the university of the future and taking into consideration climate transition and so on. You have a good organizational design. You have people which is in charge of innovation inside your university. Okay, and so finally innovation practice. So you have this one, and if you use your phone, if you click this one, you will reach directly the self-assessment sheet for evaluating, assessing the innovation culture readiness of your own company. Done? Everybody? If not, you go on strategyaccess.com and you have for self-assessment. That's good. Okay. So this is an homework for you. You have to go to use this one to check if your organization, university, company, startup are good in developing a business model with purpose, but having the right culture for doing it. So thank you. Just give me 1 minute. Because you know, one of the big problems is to predict the future. If you are able to predict the future for your startup, that's good. You know you are going in the good direction. But we have seen that it's not always the case. At least 9 times out of 10. So you can read in the crystal ball and say, my experience shows me that will be successful and this won't be. But do not forget, even for big experts in management, like executives or leaders in the company, or even VCs are not able. See? So I've written, you can't pick a winner without a Here you have Joe, and it's in French, but it will be translated. Because there are sometimes some people who think that they are so good that they can predict, it's maybe not true for